July 30th, 2016, Leo Santa Cruz, 32-0, 18 KOs, fighting his first undefeated and his prime opponent, 23-0, Carl Frampton. Cruz, who put on a great show, did not do enough to convince the judges he was the winner, losing to Frampton by majority decision. Cruz will go on to avenging his loss in early 2017. Ricky Hatton, 43-0, 31 knockouts. Hatton was the first fighter to be part of Mayweather's prize fight sweepstakes, or you may call it the Mayweather sweepstakes.
This fight tonight, what round was it? Round 4. I think you saw more action in these 4 rounds than you saw value for money in Floyd's whole career. I'll just leave it at that.
When Hatton made the comment that he made on HBO, Floyd looked to me and said, make the fucking fight happen.
Hatton started the fight well, but due to being unable to fight his fight on the inside, Joe Cortez, who was awfully quick breaking up the two upon contact, this gave Mayweather the space he needed to wear Hatton down to where he was easily able to take him out in the 10th round. At 34-0, 29 knockouts, Jones was undisputedly, pound for pound, the best fighter in boxing.
Probably doesn't like it much. He's been very calm, I think, though, Jim. Good left hook by Roy Jones. Oh, he blocked Brandon with a solid left hook, and now he's got Brandon wobbled. Here we go. Here we go.
This was Roy's second fight at light heavyweight, and it was for the WBC light heavyweight championship against Montel Griffin. The fight started out slow for Roy, as he was having trouble honing in on the slick Griffin, whom in his last fight beat James Toney. The tide changed going into the back half of the fight, as Griffin was starting to slow down, and in the 9th round, Roy finally cracked him, and Griffin took a knee. Roy accidentally hits Griffin as he was down. Griffin, knowing he'll probably lose if the fight continues, milks this moment to convince the referee and the commission to rule this fight a disqualification, giving Jones his first loss. Griffin should have been given an Academy Award for this performance. Roy will go on to avenging that loss, knocking Griffin out in the 1st round.
Playing the fainting game, and Griffin is benefiting by it. Oh, what a left hook. What a left hook.
Second knockdown of the round.
That was a leaping left hook, and Griffin may not survive it.
He's got trouble. 9. And that's that. Jones gets his vindication via a 1st round knockout.
The amount of hype on Adrian Broner was absolutely insane. He was seen as the next Floyd Mayweather before he even gathered the credentials to even be in talks of being compared to Floyd. 33-0, 24 knockouts, Adrian Broner makes his first title defense of his welterweight WBA belt against 34, 3, and 31 knockouts, Marcos Maidana. This was a fight Broner should have never taken, but it's the risks you gotta take to be great.
As Broner makes his way back to the dressing room, losing for the first time.
In 2010, Sergio Martinez beats Kelly Pavlik for the WBO, WBC, and lineal middleweight championship.
Middleweight champion of the world, Sergio.
Just a couple months later, Martinez was wrongfully stripped of the WBO title, and this leads to Daniel Jacobs, 20-0, 17 KOs, was put up against relatively unknown 16-0, 13 KOs, Dimitri Pirog. From the start of the bell, the 23-year-old Jacobs showed his age, and Pirog on that night was on a whole different level, putting on a show to knock Jacobs out in the 5th round. Going by these grossly scored scorecards, all judges had Jacobs ahead, and by the expression of the WBO president's face upon the knockout, this was obviously not part of the script. In 2001, Zab Judah was on top of the world at 27-0, 21 knockouts, carrying the IBF title. He was fighting the 27-1 WBA and WBC unified champion, Costa Tszyu. This fight was for the undisputed junior welterweight championship. After an incredibly easy first round for Judah, no one imagined the events that would happen in the second round.
I go to the corner, I'm like, yo, I got this dude, yo. And my like, no, keep your hands up, stay focused, handle your business first. And I'm like, yeah, all right, whatever. I go out there, drop my hands, start backing up, looking pretty, just kind of styling on him, looking, you know what I'm saying? I go backwards, and he caught me, bop.
Floors Judah. He's up very quickly, but his eyes are in orbit. It's over. J.D. stopped it, and Kostya Tszyu has unified the light welterweight division for the first time in 33 years.
America and Western countries were finally paying attention to the lower weight classes after such a long time, thanks to Roman Gonzalez. But this is quite a sad story, because as Roman was finally getting the worldwide recognition he deserves, he came into the mainstream just as he was about to leave his prime. Fighters in the lower weight classes tend to age progressively faster than fighters in the higher weight classes. 46-0 and 38 knockouts. Roman Gonzalez is fighting 42-4 with 39 knockouts. Sursiket Sor Rungvisai. I have to blame HBO and some boxing media for not properly informing who Rungvisai was and what kind of fighter he is. This was a 50-50 fight when it came to who was going to win. Before the uneducated boxing fan, they only see what's on paper, which made people think Rungvisai was not a good fighter, as a fair share of its opponents do not have a good record. But boxing in Thailand is far different from boxing in America or Western countries. The average Thai fighters are much more active yearly than the average Western fighter. Taking that into account, and also the fight fans did not bother to watch Rungvisai's fight, especially the one against Carlos Cuadras, an opponent Roman had struggled to beat. Rungvisai, whom was the champ at the time, was starting to find his mark late and even hurt Cuadras.
บอกแล้วนะครับเท่าไหร่บนอย่างนี้ครับมีปัญหาแน่ครับปัญหาเรื่องท้องขีดเจ็ดสวมบทโอ้ยมีปัญหาไม่เฮครับโดนไม่โดนครับแม่เอาเลยครับทีมงานนครหลวงเฮกันลั่นเวทีผู้บรรยาย
Unfortunately, the fight was stopped on cuts and Cuadras escaped with a technical decision. Rungvisai led a campaign to get another shot and regain his title after his loss to Cuadras in 2014. In 2015, he became the WBC Silver Champion and the #1 ranked WBC fighter at Super Flyweight, making him Cuadras' mandatory. When you have both titles, being #1 and having the silver title, it's crazy how Rungvisai was avoided and pretty much screwed over by the WBC. Not having the money, like these guys, to wait around to get their shot, Rungvisai stayed busy, fighting anyone and remaining sharp as possible. In 2015, he fought 6 times. In 2016, he fought 5 times, his last fight being in December of 2016. Rungvisai finally got his shot to fight for the title once again. For the average idiot, paint chip eating fight fan, they thought Gonzalez was cherry picking. Little they knew, this man was the most ferocious and avoided fighter in the division. Cuadras even stating the week of the fight, Rungvisai is no pushover and he hits very hard. Once again, the sheep fans did not listen. I told everyone that would listen, Roman may lose this fight, but knowing me and how I talk a lot about Asian fighters, I get the usual, you need to stop hyping up these Asian bums. On March 18th, Rungvisai momentarily shut everyone up, beating Roman Gonzalez. The boxing media call it an upset, but I'm not going to call it an upset at all, due to me knowing this guy was good, thanks to doing actual research. For the rest of the cheap fight fans that screamed out robbery, they were later put to silence as Rungvisai did the unthinkable of knocking Gonzalez out in a brutal fashion.
This is over. He is knocked out. Tremendous performance. Spectacular performance by a young man
A fighter that the fight fans and the media failed to do some simple research on. A fighter whom was labeled a cherry. That man today is the lineal and WBC champion and is ranked number 8 pound for pound. And on top of that, this is part 1 of When Boxers Lose Their O. For future installments, be sure to like, and if you're new, subscribe. I'm Office Honcho, and I'm out.